Hey guys, I'm Nikki Dinky. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I've got another really great meat on the side meal for you. This is my burst tomato pasta. This pasta really takes advantage of those really great, juicy and ripe summer tomatoes. So if you've got a garden that's overflowing with tomatoes, or you're finding a lot of really great ones, maybe at your grocery store or your farmer's market, this is the pasta you want to make. It's so good. It's just a couple ingredients. It's easy, it's simple, so come on, let's go get started. So like I was saying, we really want to have some of the best ingredients possible for this recipe. It's really what's gonna make this pasta amazing. One of those things being garlic. You want some fresh garlic. Try not to use the minced in a jar kind or even the pre-peeled kind, because we want something really fragrant. And you're only gonna get that from one of these guys. Oops, I'll get that later. Also, we want some really sweet, nice basil. I've got some good olive oil here. Try to, the best you can afford. This is the recipe for it. And of course, our tomatoes. Now, if this was August in New York, I'd probably be using some beefsteaks, Jersey beefsteak tomatoes, but it's a little early for tomato season here. So go with a grape or a cherry tomato. I find that they are the sweetest, and just kind of make this recipe as close to the same taste as when I make it in August with those fresh tomatoes. So if you can't get, fresh tomatoes, maybe they're not in season right now, go with a nice cherry or grape tomato. So what I want to do first is get a bunch of olive oil in my skillet with a bunch of garlic, and I really want that garlic to perfume the oil. So I'm not going to put it too hot. I'm just going to kind of let it mellow out in there, really get into the oil, and just when it starts to turn golden brown, I'm going to put my tomatoes in. Okay, so I've added my tomatoes, and now I put a lid on there just to kind of trap in that steam, help the tomatoes start to burst open, and now I'm gonna leave it alone. So I'm gonna let the tomatoes do their thing. Once some of them start bursting open and they all seem pretty soft, I'm gonna either use my spoon or a potato masher, and I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna squish them all down. I wanna get all of the juice that's inside of the tomato out of the tomato and into my sauce, so it can start to marry with the oil and the garlic and start to kind of cook off. So let me give those a minute. They're not quite soft enough yet, but once they do, me and my spoon are gonna go for a little mashing trip. So I've burst all my tomatoes, I've created this really lovely sauce, and still we've got a lot of chunks of tomatoes in there, which is exactly what we want. Now, depending on how juicy your tomatoes are or what kind of tomatoes you're using, you may have a little more or less liquid. This isn't too liquidy, so I'm just gonna cook it down a little bit, but it's pretty much there. If it doesn't have enough liquid, I have saved some of my pasta cooking water, so you could add that in there if you needed a little bit more moisture. And of course, if there's too much liquid, you just want to give it an extra minute to cook down a little bit. But this is actually pretty good. So just a couple things to bring it to the next level, make sure it's really perfect. I've got a whole bunch of basil, which is going to give a lot of freshness. A little red wine vinegar, just to kind of give it that brightness and that little bit of acidity. And of course, a lot of salt. We want to make sure to salt our tomatoes properly so that they taste like tomatoes. So let me get those things in the pan because this guy is almost done. All right, well, I've given the vinegar and the basil a minute to cook in there. The consistency of the sauce looks really good, but once again, this is the point where you either want to cook it a little longer if it's too thin, or add some of your pasta's cooking water if it's a little bit too thick. You want it to have a nice saucy consistency. Guys, this tastes really good, and there's only one thing left to do, and that is to mix it with my pasta and, of course, to eat it. So let me show you what it looks like. There you have it. Now tell me that does not look ridiculously delicious. Of course, you can just leave the pasta how it is for an amazing vegetarian meal where I promise you no one's missing the meat. Or you can make it a meat on the side meal by adding just a half a breast of breaded chicken. That's all you need to complete this plate, and the breading on the chicken starts to kind of soak up that sauce. It's just the perfect complement, and that's the perfect meal. Remember guys, always have fun in the kitchen. Until next time, I'll see you guys then.